Hey, fifth grade, it's Mrs. Domino again, coming to you with another chapter of The Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1 by Rick Riordan. It's kind of getting into the story where they're actually on their journey now. I know that they just exploded a bus, and Percy and Grover and Annabeth are stuck on the side of the road with no bags or anything, so I have no idea, but I don't know if you know what a little garden gnome is. You probably have seen, there was a movie, Romeo and Juliet, and I challenge you to look up a gnome if you're not sure what it is. But uh, if you've ever seen those garden shops that have like bird baths and little stone statues and things like that, that's the kind of place they're going to stumble upon. And they're going to meet a very famous character in Greek mythology. She's always fascinated me. It's a woman, and it's just a very interesting part. So, here goes nothing. In a way, it's nice to know there are Greek gods out there because you have somebody to blame when things go wrong. For instance, when you're walking away from a bus that's just been attacked by monster hags and blown up by lightning, and it's raining on top of everything else, most people might think that's just really bad luck. When you're a half-blood, you understand that some divine force really is trying to mess up your day. So there we were. Annabeth and Grover and I walking through the woods along the New Jersey riverbank, the glow of New York City making the night sky yellow behind us and the smell of the Hudson reeking in our noses. Grover was shivering and braying, his big goat eyes turned slit-pupiled full of terror. 3 kindly ones, all 3 at once. The explosion of bus windows still rang in my ears, but Annabeth kept pulling us along, saying, "Come on, the farther away we get, the better." "All our money is back there," I reminded her. "Our food and clothes, everything." "Well, maybe if you hadn't decided to jump into the fight." "What did you want me to do, let you get killed?" "You didn't need to protect me, Percy. I would have been fine." "Sliced like sandwich bread," Grover put in, "but fine." "Shut up, goat boy," said Annabeth. Grover brayed mournfully. "Tin cans. A perfectly good bag of tin cans." We sloshed across mushy ground, through nasty twisted trees that smelled like sour laundry. After a few minutes, Annabeth fell into line next to me. "Look, her voice faltered. "I appreciate your coming back for us, okay? That was really brave." "We're a team, right?" She was silent for a few more steps. "It's just that if you died, aside from the fact that it would really suck for you, it would mean the quest was over. This may be my only chance to see the real world." The thunderstorm had finally let up. The city glow faded behind us, leaving us in almost total darkness. I couldn't see anything of Annabeth except a glint of her blonde hair. "You haven't left Camp Half-Blood since you were 7? I asked her. Guys, I know I'm trying not to stop as often, but OMG. Reading this is so timely because the fact that she was at Camp Half-Blood for 7 years, we've only been doing this quarantine thing since, March 13th or something, or the weekend, the 16th. We've only been doing it since then, so some of us have really been in our houses for only just over a month. Maybe I think it's about 6 weeks. And Annabeth was stuck in one place for 7 years. So I know we're not going to be stuck for 7 years, but could you imagine? And I guess at this point you probably can. So can you see why she's just so ready to get out in the world and so ready to see something other than Camp Half-Blood? Okay, here we go. "You haven't left Camp Half-Blood since you were 7, I asked her. "No, only short field trips. My dad, the history professor, yeah, it didn't work out for me living at home. I mean, Camp Half-Blood is my home." She was rushing her words out now as if she were afraid somebody might try to stop her. "At camp you train, and that's all cool and everything, but the real world is where the monsters are. That's where you learn whether you're any good or not." If I didn't know better, I could have sworn I heard doubt in her voice. "You're pretty good with that knife," I said. "You think so?" "Anybody who can piggyback ride a Fury is okay by me." I couldn't really see, but I thought she might have smiled. "You know," she said, "maybe I should tell you. Something funny back on the bus." Whatever she wanted to say was interrupted by a shrill toot, 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 like the sound of an owl being tortured. Hey, my reed pipes still work, Grover cried. If I could just remember a Find Path song, we could get out of these woods. He puffed out a few notes, but the tune still sounded suspiciously like Hilary Duff. Instead of finding a path, I immediately slammed into a tree and got a nice-sized knot on my head. Add to the list of superpowers I did not have: infrared vision. After tripping and cursing and generally feeling miserable for another mile or so, I started to see light up ahead. The colors of a neon sign. I could smell food. Fried, greasy, excellent food. I realized I hadn't eaten anything unhealthy since I'd arrived at Camp Half-Blood, where we lived on grapes, bread, cheese, and extra lean-cut nymph-prepared barbecue. This boy needed a double cheeseburger. We kept walking until I saw a deserted 2-lane road through the trees. On the other side was a closed-down gas station, a tattered billboard for a 1990s movie, and one open business, which was the source of the neon light and the good smell. It wasn't a fast food restaurant like I'd hoped. It was one of those weird roadside curio shops that sell lawn flamingos and wooden Indians and cement grizzly bears and stuff like that. The main building was a long, low warehouse surrounded by acres of statuary. The neon sign above the gate was impossible for me to read because if there's anything worse for my dyslexia than regular English, it's red cursive neon English. To me, it looked like Atenu, Mess, Gadirin, Gomen, Meprawim. What the heck does that say? I asked. I don't know, Annabeth said. She loved reading so much I'd forgotten she was dyslexic too. Grover translated, Annie M's Garden Gnome Emporium. Flanking the entrance as advertised were 2 cement garden gnomes, ugly bearded little runts, smiling and waving as if they were about to get their picture taken. I crossed the street, following the smell of the hamburgers. Hey, Grover warned. The lights are on inside, Annabeth said. Maybe it's open. Snack bar, I said wistfully. Snack bar, she agreed. Are you too crazy? Grover said. This place is weird. We ignored him. The front lot was a forest of statues. Cement animals, cement children, even a cement satyr playing the pipes, which gave Grover the creeps. Blah! He bleated. Looks like my Uncle Ferdinand. We stopped at the warehouse door. Don't knock, Grover pleaded. I smell monsters. Your nose is clogged up from the Furies, Annabeth told him. All I smell is burgers. Aren't you hungry? Meat? He said scornfully. I'm a vegetarian. You eat cheese enchiladas in aluminum cans, I reminded him. Those are vegetables. Come on, let's leave. These statues are looking at me. Then the door creaked open, and standing in front of us was a tall, Middle Eastern woman. At least I assumed she was Middle Eastern because she wore a long black gown that covered everything but her hands, and her head was completely veiled. Her eyes glinted behind a curtain of black gauze, but that was about all I could make out. Her coffee-colored hands looked old, but well-manicured and elegant, so I imagined she was a grandmother who had once been a beautiful lady. Her accent sounded vaguely Middle Eastern, too. She said, Children, it is too late to be out all alone. Where are your parents? They're, Annabeth started to say. We're orphans, I said. Orphans? The woman said. The word sounded alien in her mouth. But, my dears, surely not. We got separated from our caravan, I said. Our circus caravan. The ringmaster told us to meet him at the gas station if we got lost, but he may have forgotten, or maybe he meant a different gas station. Anyway, we're lost. Is that food I smell? Oh, my dears, the woman said. You must come in, poor children. I am Auntie M. Go straight through the back of the warehouse, please. There is the dining area. We thanked her and went inside. Annabeth muttered to me, Circus caravan? Always have a strategy, right? Your head is full of kelp. The warehouse was filled with more statues, people in all different poses wearing all different outfits and with different expressions on their faces. I was thinking you'd have to have a pretty huge garden to fit even one of those statues because they were all life-size. But mostly I was thinking about food. Go ahead. Call me an idiot for walking into a strange lady's shop like that just because I was hungry. But I do impulsive stuff sometimes. Plus, you've never smelled Auntie M's burgers. The aroma was like laughing gas in the dentist chair. It made everything else go away. I barely noticed Grover's nervous whimpers or the way the statue's eyes seemed to follow me or the fact that Auntie M had locked the door behind us. Guys, do you feel the foreshadowing? First of all, Grover, and then this lady appears, and this magical place appears in the middle of nowhere. And, there's just a lot. And the life-size statues, like, what? All I cared about was finding the dining area. Sure enough, there it was at the back of the warehouse, a fast food counter with a grill, a soda fountain, a pretzel heater, and a nacho cheese dispenser. Everything you could want, plus a few steel picnic tables out front. Please, sit down, Auntie M said. Awesome, I said. Grover said reluctantly, we don't have any money, ma'am. Before I could jab him in the ribs, Auntie M said, No, children, no money. This is a special case, yes? It is my treat for such nice orphans. Thank you, ma'am, Annabeth said. Auntie M stiffened as if Annabeth had done something wrong, but then the old woman relaxed just as quickly, so I figured it must have been my imagination. See, follow your instincts, guys. They are not listening to theirs. Quite all right, Annabeth, she said. You have such beautiful gray eyes, child. Only later did I wonder how she knew Annabeth's name, even though we had never introduced ourselves. Our hostess disappeared behind the snack counter and started cooking. Before we knew it, she'd brought us plastic trays heaped with double cheeseburgers, vanilla shakes, and double XL servings of French fries. I was halfway through my burger before I remembered to breathe. Annabeth slurped her shake. Grover picked at the fries and eyed the tray's wax paper liner as if he might go for that, but he still looked too nervous to eat. What's that hissing noise? He asked. I listened but didn't hear anything. Annabeth shook her head. Hissing? Auntie M asked. Perhaps you hear the deep fryer oil. You have keen ears, Grover. I take vitamins for my ears. That's admirable, she said. But please, relax. Auntie M ate nothing. She hadn't taken off her headdress even to cook, and now she sat forward and interlaced her fingers and watched us eat. It was a little unsettling having someone stare at me when I couldn't see her face, but I was feeling satisfied after the burger and a little sleepy, and I figured the least I could do was try to make small talk with our hostess. So, you sell gnomes, I said, trying to sound interested. Oh, yes, Auntie M said. And animals and people, anything for the garden. Custom orders. Statuary is very popular, you know. A lot of business on this road? Not so much, no. Since the highway was built, most cars, they do not go this way now. I must cherish every customer I get. My neck tingled as if somebody else was looking at me. I turned, but it was just a statue of a young girl holding an Easter basket. The detail was incredible, much better than you see in most garden statues. But something was wrong with her face. It looked as if she were startled or even terrified. Ah, Auntie M said sadly, you notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. The face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. You make these statues yourself? I asked. Oh, yes. Once upon a time, I had two sisters to help me in the business, but they have passed on, and Auntie M is alone. I have only my statues. This is why I make them, you see? They are my company. The sadness in her voice sounded so deep and so real that I couldn't help feeling sorry for her. Annabeth had stopped eating. She sat forward and said, Two sisters? It's a terrible story, Auntie M said. Not one for children, really. You see, Annabeth, a bad woman, was jealous of me long ago when I was young. I had a boyfriend, you know, and this bad woman was determined to break us apart. She caused a terrible accident. My sister stayed by me. They shared my bad fortune as long as they could, but eventually they passed on. They faded away. I alone have survived, but at a price. Such a price. I wasn't sure what she meant, but I felt bad for her. My eyelids kept getting heavier, my full stomach making me sleepy. Poor old lady. Who'd want to hurt somebody so nice? Percy! Annabeth was shaking me to get my attention. Maybe we should go. I mean, the ringmaster will be waiting. She sounded tense. I wasn't sure why. Grover was eating the wax paper off the tray now, but if Auntie Em found that strange, she didn't say anything. Such beautiful gray eyes, Auntie Em told Annabeth again. My, yes, it has been a long time since I've seen gray eyes like those. She reached out as if to stroke Annabeth's cheek, but Annabeth stood up abruptly. We really should go. Yes! Grover swallowed his wax paper and stood up. The ringmaster's waiting! Right! I didn't want to leave. I felt full and content. Auntie Em was so nice. I wanted to stay with her a while. Please, dears, Auntie Em pleaded. I so rarely get to be with children. Before you go, won't you at least sit for the pose? A pose? Annabeth asked warily. A photograph. I will use it as to model a new statue set. Children are so popular, you see. Everyone loves children. Annabeth shifted her weight from foot to foot. I don't think we can, ma'am. Come on, Percy. Sure we can, I said. I was irritated with Annabeth being so bossy, so rude to an old lady who just fed us for free. It's just a photo, Annabeth. What's the harm? Yes, Annabeth, the woman purred. No harm. I could tell Annabeth didn't like it, but she allowed Auntie Em to lead us back out the front door into the garden of statues. Auntie Em directed us to a park bench next to the stone satyr. Now, I'll just position you correctly. The young girl in the middle, I think, and the two young gentlemen on either side. Not much light for a photo, I remarked. Oh, enough, Auntie Em said. Enough for us to see each other, yes? Where's your camera? Grover asked. Auntie Em stepped back as if to admire the shot. Now the face is the most difficult. Can you smile for me, please, everyone? A large smile. Grover glanced at the cement satyr next to him and mumbled, That sure does look like Uncle Ferdinand. Grover, Auntie Em chastised, look this way, dear. She still had no camera in her hands. Guys, I'm going to leave you here for this. I'm going to do the chapter in 2 parts so it's not too long. Stay tuned. Dun, dun, dun.